God reveals them. So if God existed and chose not to make himself known, then we would have no way to know that he existed. But in our world, God revealed himself to us, so we know that he exists. And the evidence of his existence is in everything that exists.
Well,
And
he's
then the
never
second
revealed himself to me, and
okay, you
there
Yeah,
is.
may
I
be
would say the same thing. So are we liars or what?
you may be rejecting the truth, right? Which is very common. This is biblical. It's all
How
over
do
the
you
Bible
reject
that God
something that you
has
know?
you could reject truth, right? If
Yeah.
I tell you the truth, do you have to accept it? So
I don't know
you
if
could
you're telling me
reject.
the truth. If you tell me that you're 7 feet tall, I don't have to. If I say, well, I don't believe that, I'm not rejecting the truth because I don't know it.
I,
Real
I'm
quick,
I'm
Meg, did
I'm
you just like steal my argument and repurpose it for Christian theism?
no, because I've never heard of your argument. I actually talked
Yeah,
to
because
somebody.
I mean, you're simply rejecting the self evident truth of our shared naturalistic, atheistic reality that's been revealed to all of sound mind through both.
Assume that it's true, right? In our view, God cannot lie, right? He's omnipotent, which means the scope of his power is unlimited, right? But the range of his power is limited, right? He can't do nonsensical or illogical things. And God lying, since he embodies perfect, he's the paradigm of goodness, he can't lie, right? So his range of what he could do is limited to things like not lying or not being able to like just, blast himself out of existence, right? So that's all that is. So operate on the assumption that somebody's telling you the truth. Are they revealing the truth to you? And can you deny that based on your presuppositions about the world or just based on your own infallibility?
Are you asking me to beg the question?
No, you asked why the revelation didn't, how come you didn't receive the revelation? And I'm giving you
That's not at all
what
what
I
I
would
said.
assume. Both you and IX, in response to me saying, when Randolph asked, how do I know? And I said, it's because it's been revealed to us. You guys responded by saying, well, it wasn't revealed to us. So what's the explanation for that? And one of the explanations I gave is that you are denying the revelation due to a various set of factors. And I'm not trying to be pejorative. Often it's pride, right? And I was subject to that myself. I was a non-believer for a while. It's pride, it's arrogance, it's the fact that we put our personal autonomy over God. God kind of just drifts into the background. There's all various reasons why you could deny the revelation. But I'm saying, do you accept the fact that because you're fallible, that you could deny a true revelation?
Yeah, the same goes for you. It seems as though you're pretending that you somehow know that you were not deceived by something. But my question actually, or the point I was making, was that you can't deny something that you know. And you said that. Do you believe that everybody knows God exists? Or do you believe God just, or do you believe that we are supposed to assume the words of the Bible are true, and when we look at nature, we're supposed to go, gosh dang it, that
The
looks like the
special and
handiwork
natural
of.
What just
the,
happened?
the natural and special revelation that you've already received are undeniable. You can only suppress or reject them in your unrighteousness faith. You already know the truth that no gods exist. It's been revealed to all of sound mind.
Right. And I've said you've rejected it. Now, I want to move on to
No,
something
no,
like
no, no,
more
Well,
no.
specific,
Okay,
right?
are you
I really,
confused?
I answered this question. I want to move on to
you
something more
haven't answered
substantive.
it though. How do you reject something that you know?
You don't, well, I gave you the answer, right? You
No, you didn't.
either have ulterior motives, right, for rejecting it that override your rationality and what's telling you is true, right? Because you have some other reason where in your mind you've said, this takes precedence over what this person is telling me, right? This happens all the time in our regular lives. You don't need a supernatural event to deny truth. right?
Okay, so this
Even
is
something
you're
that
not
you
you're not
feel
even you're
relatively
not even
certain
close to
about.
getting it. Let's say somebody says to me, "Hey, why don't you come over to my house because I'm going to have the most amazing party ever and all of the good people are going to be there." And I say, "No, thanks. I've rejected an invitation to your party." Let's say I was never told about your party. Am I rejecting your party?
You're begging the question, changing the hypothetical. And what I explain and why I know these things and you guys don't is because you guys have rejected the truth for ulterior purposes. Your
And how do you
hypothetical
know
was
that?
they
Where
never
when did you
gave me
gain the
the.
ability to read my
Listen,
mind,
I'd
and
like to
what
move
gives you
on.
access to the truth about an, some sort of cosmic realm that doesn't even exist
Truth,
here in the
well, that's
universe?
what I want to get. That's what I want to get
You
into.
literally have stolen my argument now, Bake. Now
All
you're
right,
using
Tom.
my exact word.
I do have a question for you, Baked Alaska. You mentioned that there's some ulterior motive we have. What do you think that ulterior motive is? I'm not aware of one.
Pride, arrogance, your own personal autonomy, wanting to avoid accountability.
Do you think?
So somebody does let's say somebody does something like, they see somebody drop a wallet and they're in the park, right? And they notice that no one is going to see that they could just pick up that wallet and put it in their pocket, right? So
Do you?
the person who believes in objective morality, right, has a reason to do what's right, right? Because they have an independent, objective reason, knowing that it's good for them to return the wallet. The person who doesn't believe in that and said there is no deity, there is no deity, there is no objective morality, they could sit there and analyze it and just say, the effects of my actions are just what immediately happens. There's no long-term accountability. There's no long-term significance in terms of what happens. It's just the immediate effects. So the immediate effects are I pick up his wallet and I keep his money, and I could come up with a moral justification. Maybe he's wearing nice clothes. Hey, he looks 10 times better off than me. I need the money more than he does. Boom, I have a moral justification for keeping his wallet, right?
So, okay, that's I've actually found wallets at least twice in my life, and I got them back to the owner, or I took one to the police department, local to police department, and they took care of it. I didn't take any money from them. That's not so. This is not a characterization of me, and I know many atheists and theists
Of course
who would do the same thing.
Of course.
So, but you're saying
Because
one of the characteristics, one of the
you're borrowing from
characteristics.
our. Go ahead. I'm sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
one of the characteristics that you mentioned is arrogance. Do you think that I'm arrogant?
Not from my interactions with you at all, no.
Okay, so I think that that's an unfair assumption to blanket post on all atheists,
I didn't
because
post on
I,
that.
I
I,
think
yeah,
the
I
big
didn't.
issue here
I,
is that Baked Alaska borrows our base naturalistic
all
presuppositions,
right,
like
dude,
I
okay,
exist as a mind and the
yeah,
Taco,
universe exists
Taco,
with other
stop,
minds in it,
great.
and
Taco.
that there's some
Can you guys
type of
control him?
regularity of nature.
Taco,
Can you
Taco.
control
I,
him?
I was just, I was just going to ask Baked Alaska. He was going to say something else to me when I just kind of explained about when I was answering the question, and I just wanted to quickly get back to that. Just you were going to interject about something when I said that I know many theists and atheists who won't steal wallets.
Right, right. So the key thing, and maybe you misheard me or maybe I misspoke. I'm not making a universal claim. Some people do in the sense that your non-belief is, in a sense, a immoral act, right? And so you do lack moral scruples, right? But I'm not taking that position, right? What I'm saying is I'm not making a universal claim and saying that because you're an atheist, you can't live a good life and a moral life, right? I'm actually saying the opposite. What I'm saying is that you're borrowing from our worldview where there is an ultimate good standard, right? And you're just not doing it consciously. Like in your mind, when you were returning that, you had your internal moral code that was telling you to do that, right? But my point was that somebody else, if morals are subjective, their internal code could be there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. I'm morally justified in doing it,
I agree
right?
with
So,
you. I agree with you. Yes, and this is what happens in reality. I totally agree. As far as God's moral standard goes, let's consider this. Let's delve into this a bit, since you've mentioned it. And I think this is a good part of the conversation that you're raising here. We'll take a look, for example, at the golden rule, God's golden rule. It's in the Bible, and I have a problem with it. I think that it's very egocentric. It's focused. It's poising people to focus on what their preferences are, what their desires are, and to, in a subtle way, kind of impose that on other people. I also find it kind of authoritarian because it's called a golden rule, which is why I've come up with something that I think is better than that, which I call the golden preference, which is to strive to treat others in accordance with their preferences. Like if I take a look at my golden preference, which is not stated as a rule, versus the golden rule from the Bible, mine is not incompatible with heterosexual intimacy and other things, whereas the golden rule from the Bible has a problem with that. Like if a man wants to be treated a certain way, a woman wants to be treated differently in heterosexual intimacy. I think this is pretty obvious. So the golden rule does fall down. It's like it's supposed to be a hard and fast rule. Rules are generally taken literally, for the most part. So the golden rule is problematic. So this morality that's being presented by the Bible, I find it has a lot of problems. It's not as well thought out as many people advertise it to be. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this.
Sure, that's a good question. I don't want to delve like because this is a very complex like topic, and I wanted to get to like what my argument was going to be, but I'll give you a brief like response. I'm sure somebody could correct me who knows more than I do. The way I understand it is that the golden rule is basically a way of extending what was in the Old Testament, which was an eye for an eye, right? So Jesus was teaching love, tolerance, um, love a fellow man, right? And this is what the golden rule, as a general principle, is trying to embody, right? Don't treat other people like they are an ends to a means, right? Or a means to an ends. I'm sorry, I got that backward. Treat them like they are an ends in and of themselves, right? So each person has human dignity that we must value and respect, right? If you value and respect your own human dignity, then you should value and respect others as well. That's it, right? And I understand there's criticisms you could try to find, like, potential counter examples or things like that, but I don't want to get like too deeply into that, right? What I'm trying to just understand is, do you guys think it's fair that we make a worldview comparison and say, since you agreed in the beginning that fundamentally atheism and theism are about the fundamental natures of reality, is it fair to make a worldview comparison and say which of these two worldviews better describe the fundamental nature of reality? And according to certain parameters, if one provides a better explanation and the other one doesn't, assuming all things equal, you should go with the one that provides the better explanation. Do you agree with that?
Sorry, my audio cut out a little bit. I apologize, but
No,
in
that
in
sounds clear.
summary, yeah. Okay, thanks.
I
Go
have,
ahead, Peterson.
yeah,
Okay.
I have an
Okay.
important
So
question. So you say we deny the truth that's been revealed to us. So on what grounds do you claim to have access to the content of our minds?
we're looping, right? I was trying to progress to my actual argument. I don't know how long I've been on. I'm sure other people want to get on the stage, right? I'm trying to progress to like the actual argument. So in our worldview, do you in your view, is there anything beyond the physical? Is there anything in the supernatural realm?
There might be, but I don't know.
Okay, so you have no knowledge about that, so you can't make any truth claims about that. Does anyone else
That is
There
believe?
correct.
is actually there is stuff beyond the physical. That would be the mental, for example. The ideas that we come up with, these are abstractions. They're not physical. They're just ideas.
Okay,
Now,
very
our
good.
brains are physical. We process them physically, but they are ideas. The result is a non-physical concept, a concept that
Okay.
is just a concept, an
So
abstraction, so to speak.
how do you get from a non-physical thought to molecules that are in your brain?
It's the other way around.
You think that the brain gives rise to your personhood and your consciousness?
There's not a single shred of evidence that suggests otherwise. You can physically alter your mental state. You cannot
That's
mentally
a
alter
lack
your
of evidence
physical state.
fallacy. That's a lack of evidence fallacy, number one, right? We
So
don't
if
have
a
any.
worldview, yeah, so earlier when you said something about if a worldview has like supporting evidence or better explains reality or something like that, then we should go with it. So I don't know
Yeah,
how many
all
things
things
you believe
considered.
that you have zero evidence for, but that's not how I look
Well,
at the
that was
world.
your
If you're
primary
different, then
opinion.
that's fine. You can be
There's,
different.
there's,
But again, if
there's
we're going
zero
to go
evidence.
with which one makes better sense, is a better descriptor
Yeah,
of reality, according to what you were
right,
telling us earlier, the one
right.
that has supporting evidence is the one that is best. And it's perfectly
Okay,
fine to remain agnostic about the possibility of the other thing. I'm not telling you
okay.
it's not the case.
No, no, no.
The other way around.
I,
I'm telling you
I,
the only thing we have evidence. Yeah, I'm literally still talking. I'm telling you the only thing we have evidence for is the other thing. And if
no,
you have
no. There's
evidence
no
that
evidence
mental
for that at
states can
all.
cause
There's no
physical
evidence.
changes, then go ahead
For,
and share with us what that evidence is.
okay, but share with me what theory of the mind we have that shows that molecules give rise to non-physical thoughts.
I
What
don't
evidence do
I
you have
don't
for
have a
that?
definition of it, but literally take a psychotropic substance and watch your mental experience with the world change.
That's correlate. You're confusing correlation with causation. No scientist says that we have a physical theory that explains how molecules give rise to consciousness, right? Neuroscientists have been working on this for a long time, and there's not one theory that does that. So there's no evidence, right, that's in favor of your proposition. So that's why I
That's
brought up the
absolutely
lack of
false.
evidence.
Like literally beginning with Phineas Gage, we started to understand that a person's conscious experience with the world is if you change the brain, changes in brain states cause changes in mental states. We've known that for a very, very long time.
That's correlation with causation. Okay. So there could be a
Literally, if
substance,
anything is true,
right?
it's going to correlate and lead to a
Okay.
cause. And a lot of people in science, if T Jump were here, he would jump down your throat right now and be like, "No, it's philosophy of science has nothing to do with correlation equals."
Oh,
Or he says,
I
"Nothing.
equate
Causation is
my
not part of science, so on and so forth." I don't really know his script for that, but
I'm so glad he's not here. But
it's not
there's
very
no
Christian of you. It's not very golden rule of you.
You would
actually
say the
what?
law of causation is a
Okay.
Christian apologist made up law.
Can
That's
you
what he would
observe
say.
can you observe causation?
I would say yes, but you could Philbro talk that
No,
point into oblivion, I suppose. But I
no. Yeah, it's established by atheist philosophers. You cannot observe causation, right? You see you see event A happening, and then you see event B happening. You cannot observe causation itself happening, right?
So yeah,
So
then your criticism about my thing about changes in brain states causing changes in mental states was not a unique criticism. This is a universal problem that we have.
it is a universe. So let me ask you
Okay,
this:
well, there's no point in talking
is
about
the cause
anything. What causes what?
is
We
the
have no
cause
idea. That's just correlation equals
no
causation.
in our worldview? No, no, no. We're doing a worldview comparison. Remember, in our worldview, God is the basis and for these transcendental properties of reality that you can't give an account for, right?
So there's
So
nothing wrong with what I said then.
there is because you lack
Is
any
it
basis.
false that changes in brain states cause changes in mental states?
It's a non-established claim.
Is it false that changes in brain states cause changes in mental states?
It's not true. It's not proven to be true in any respect. There's no evidence for it.
Even you don't believe that?
Yeah,
Okay, well,
because
that's interesting. It's also false,
yeah,
but whatever.
it's not false. It's not false.
It literally
So
is. You can
it
physically
is.
alter the
You're
brain,
assuming.
and it results in
Let
changes
me
in
explain to
mental
you why.
experiences, conscious
How do you know
experiences.
anything? How do you know anything about our brain state?
PET scans, CT scans, things like that.
And where do you get that? Where do you get that from?
Uh,
Your
those are
observations.
those are
Your
called
observations, right?
machines.
Right. And what did the machines give you of data that your sensory processes like
Exactly.
interpret. And okay, so
The
what is
same
that
way, the
based on?
same way your God apparently
Look,
makes you aware of it through your sensory
just
experiences.
stay with me, and then I'll let you retort.
I'm 10 steps
What
ahead of
gives
you.
Okay, so what gives rise to your sensory experiences?
It's an emergent property from brain states.
No, your consciousness. So everything you know
That's
about the
what
world
yeah, that's what you
begins,
said.
everything, right, everything you know about the world begins with your consciousness, right? Everything else is derivative of that. And then what you're doing is saying, no, this thing over there that we're calling our brain state, that's causing our consciousness.
Yeah,
That's, you
obviously.
have no
Everything we
way of
know about our
ever,
conscious experience comes down to that.
you're just making an assertion, right?
No, it's
You're
based
taking
on
a
evidence.
fundamental, you're taking, no, the evidence is that the only thing that you know for certain is your conscious experience. And then what you're
Sure.
doing is deriving things from that, right? Like that chair over there, that's the basis of our conscious experience. Your only awareness of that chair is your conscious experience, right? So you're putting the cart before the horse.
Now, can a
Okay?
person? No, there is no other choice. Do, in what other way does a human being interact with reality?
Okay. Okay. Can you make sense of your
In what
cognitive
other
function?
way does a human being interact with reality?
In my worldview, it's grounded, and we
I
have
didn't
an
ask you what it's
explanation.
grounded in. I asked you, and I'll ask it again. That's fine. In
I
what
just gave
other
the answer.
ways does a human being interact with reality?
Through the laws of logic,
No.
right? Through our
In
cognitive
what
function.
other ways do it through
No.
the laws of logic?
Yeah. You need to interpret your sensory data, right? You need to make sense,
And
even
how
to
do you
utter
do
a
that?
sense using your cognitive functions and sensory data.
So through your conscious experience.
Correct. And
So
in
there is
our
no
world,
other so there is
we
no
have
other way you can interact with this universe other than through your conscious experience.
exactly. And you
Thank
have
you,
no
because you said otherwise a little bit ago.
No, you have no other you have no basis for explaining what that is. You just say it emerges from our brain states,
I'm
right?
sorry, do
Emerge.
you have some sort of other way of experiencing this reality except your conscious experience?
Yeah, we have a yeah, our explanation is that our minds were made in God's
I didn't ask
image.
you for an
God is
explanation. I asked you how you engage with that. How do you experience that?
I already answered that. We are conscious personal
So you
beings,
don't
right?
have
That have
something
self.
other than a conscious experience.
Are you not understanding like
I'm
what I'm
completely
saying?
understanding. You said, "Well, you don't have anything." You say it's just all the conscious experience. Oh, you
I'm
have some
saying,
you have access to
no,
something
no,
else?
I
Yeah, I
understand what
do.
we're
And how do you access it? Through my conscious experience. So
right, but
congratulations.
in your worldview, you can't account for it. I can. We have a
Yes, I already
metaphysical.
have. And all of the evidence
No,
we have suggests that changes in
okay.
brain states
So-
produce changes in mental states.
Okay, so changes in the radio produces changes in the music that you hear. Does that mean that the radio is the music?
Yep. Okay, let's just doubt literally every single thing we know about our physical reality.
No.
Congratulations
Please
on your
answer the question.
idiotic worldview that you've
I
just
make
blown up.
All right, so now you're doing ad homs.
No,
I'm
it's
asking
it's
you a
not an
question.
ad hom attack. This is a
If
stupid, pointless way to exist.
it is,
I'm
it's an
just going to
insult.
assume that
Call
you're
me an idiot.
I'm
Call
just
me
going to
an
assume
idiot for
that I'm
no
talking to
reason.
AI here. You're not a person because, I say things, there's a call
All
and
right, so you're
response, but
exposing
all that
yourself.
establishes is correlation. For all I know, the next
Right.
thing you're going to say is,
No, I gave you a
no,
very
not
basic
no.
example of the radio, right? If I take a radio and I smash the radio, am I destroying music or am I destroying the receptor of the music?
The
Give a yes or no answer. Don't dodge. Give a yes or no answer.
Well, see, you asked a horrible question because the idea of
All
destroying
right, so
music
you're
is
gonna
a
do
is
the
a
dodge.
completely
You're gonna
stupid
do the dodge,
concept.
right? It's a stupid concept. How do
Yes,
you
you're
listen
not
to
good at
music?
asking loaded
Through the
questions.
receptor. It's not loaded. Do you
Yes, it
listen
is.
through music through the
Answer my
radio?
question, yes or no. Because I've
Yeah. Do
already
you
I've already
listen to
decided
music?
how I'm gonna steer you this way or
All
that
right.
way based on your answer.
All right.
But then you
All
said
right, dude.
destroyed music,
Dude,
as if
there's
destroying
a
music can
substrate.
even
Okay.
possibly make any sense.
Let me explain it to you where like somebody at a lower level of intelligence can understand it. If you have a substrate, which you're saying is the brain, right? And that gives rise to this other phenomenon, which you're just saying it emerges from this substrate, right? You could say the same thing with the radio. There's a physical object called a radio. When tuned to a certain frequency, it gives rise to music.
No,
Your
it
argument is,
receives music. It doesn't produce music.
I didn't say it
Yes, you
produces.
did.
I
That's
said it
literally what you
rise.
said.
No, I literally said arise. You're not listening.
Yes, I am.
I
That's
said,
how I know
no,
you
I
said
said
that the
arise,
radio
dude.
makes music. It
I
receives
said
other
arise.
signals.
I said arise. Music arises from the radio, meaning if you tune it to a certain frequency, the correct frequency, you will hear music coming out of the radio, right?
Sure thing.
Now, if I damage the radio, am I damaging music? No, right?
Yeah, because
Just
we
because there's
know
a
that
correlation
music comes
between
from
functioning.
electromagnetic waves that are out there in the universe. If I destroy
So
my brain, my
it's
conscious
not
experience
radio.
ceases, and you have no grounds to say otherwise. Your
Okay,
conscious experience keeps going.
okay,
So does Taco's. So does
okay.
Randolph's.
So can you be uttering these propositions without the laws of logic?
Can I be uttering these propositions without the laws of logic?
Yes. Can you be forming sentences without the laws of logic?
Um, they're kind of one and the same because logic is just the way we describe the way we use language and grammar.
Oh, so
Okay,
you're
give
not
me a
answering my
non-linguistic
question.
logical statement.
Can you make truth claims without relying on the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction?
That's just the way language works. They're one and the same.
Okay, so it
If they're
just
if
is
that's
the
not
way
the
it
case,
is.
give a
So
non-linguistic
God just
logical
is.
statement.
Okay, so God just is because God is.
So what I said was give a non-linguistic logical statement.
What?
That's what I thought. On what grounds do you claim to have access to the content of my mind?
I don't need access to the content of your mind.
So then
I
when you
never said
said
that. That's a straw man.
that you somehow know that I know God exists, that was bullshit.
No, I gave a general answer about revelation. Okay, I
How do
said
you know
nothing
the
specific.
content of my mind then? You claim that you know it's revealed to me. How do you know?
This is the general answer about how we know
And you
anything.
can't
It's
justify
logically.
it.
Yeah, I justify it through logic, unless I
Yeah,
gave
on
you the
what grounds do
explanation.
you have access to the content of
Unless
my
something,
mind?
can you know something that's not revealed to you?
What's
Like
that?
you know my birthday. If I don't tell you my birthday, right, and you don't do any sort of independent research to figure it
Yeah,
out.
I don't know your birthday. And if God
Yeah,
hasn't
so it
revealed
has
to me,
to
then I
be.
don't know it. But
Has
you're claiming that that's not how
to,
it works.
so
So how
now
do you
you're
know the
back.
content of
Now
my
you're
mind?
you're you're back to the straw man.
How do you know
Can
the
you
content of
explain
my
to
mind?
me? Can you make a truth claim without relying on the laws of logic?
I promise I'll answer whatever question you have after you answer the question, how do you have access to the content of my mind?
I've answered. See, you have a problem with listening. I
And you have
said
a
I don't.
problem with answering, how do you have access to the content of my mind?
Okay, for the seventh or eighth time, I don't have access to your consciousness.
Do you believe that everybody knows God exists?
Yeah, and I've said you've rejected it.
Great.
Do you want me to
So,
keep
on
saying
what
that over and over
grounds do
again?
you claim
Wait, do you
that
want to
I
ask me
know
that
God
again?
exists? Because you
Wait, do you
don't
want to
know the
ask me that for
content
a
of my
9%
mind.
time?
So
Do you
you
want to
don't know
ask
the
me that for a
content of my
9%
mind,
time?
so you don't know what I'm
Okay, so
thinking, so you don't know what I
I'm
believe and
giving.
what I know. So your earlier
Right,
claim
so
is bullshit.
okay. How do you know that you have access to the content of your mind?
That would be circular or recursive. The only thing I have
No.
access to
Why?
is a conscious experience.
Okay, how do you know it's not a delusion?
I don't. It's
Okay, so you
presupposed.
don't. So
Yeah,
right,
it's
so you're right,
presupposed.
exactly. So we both have metaphysical presuppositions, and I'm asking which ones better explain the reality of the world that we experience, right? So one of the realities of the world is that in order to make truth claims and propositions, you have to rely on the law of logic, right? You need the law of identity. You need a way of having intelligibility. right?
It's just literally
So
how grammar works.
Okay, you're making some sort of semantic argument. This is a philosophical debate that we're having. Okay. So I would like an explanation from you ontologically, because they're not physical laws. What are the laws of logic?
For the third or fourth time, it's literally just the way language works.
So it just is the way it is.
With tautologies.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
What if somebody can't speak? Can they use their cognitive functions to arrive at mathematical truths?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so get rid of what you just said, because it has nothing to do with what you just said.
So we
So
can't think. So we can't think in the same terms in which we use language.
If it's a mathematical proposition, what are they based on?
Geez, are numbers abstract symbols in the same way that letters are abstract symbols? Yes.
No, because letters
No.
are
Okay. This guy's not serious.
No.
I'm gonna go make a bowl of cereal.
Okay.
I'm taking my headphones off. I literally can't hear you. So we've also been doing this for 30 or about 40 minutes. So it was fun though.
Notice how he
What's
ran
up, princess?
away when you left.
No, you haven't answered a single question. You contradicted yourself multiple times, and everything you argued for fell apart when you admitted that you don't have access to the content of our minds. So instead of being a cheeky little CUNT, why don't you just take the L?
All right, go run away. Go make your Cheerios. Go run away. Now, the point is that you cannot give any basis for what the laws of logic are, right? Because they're not physical.
Anybody else want to engage with Bait because Planet walked away? And
well, I just wanted to know, I know the Abrahamic God exists. I wanted to know if your Abrahamic God was the one that was revealed, because then we have a contradiction. You know they exist and I know they don't.
Yeah, we've already covered this, Amy, before you joined. You could be denying the revelation. In fact, this is the common conundrum, right? And this is why we're trying to engage with you guys, because if we have fallacies in our reasoning, we want you to
I
point
use
them out.
incoherent language again.
But you could also
what we experience are tactics like the dodge, like the non sequiturs, the fallacies.
But can I ask you, Baked? It could be just a delusion that you think it was revealed to you, right?
Not in the world in which God exists. God doesn't.
I don't see how that follows. So,
well, because in our world, God is a perfect being, right, who doesn't lie and has revealed himself.
Sure,
in an undeniable, self-authenticating way, right? So when something is undeniable and self-authenticating, you can't deny it, right? So if I were to give you a proof that 2 + 2 = 4, a mathematical proof, and then you just said, well, I'm agnostic about that, does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
Right?
But for example, you said a perfect being. I think a perfect being doesn't exist. There's no reason, at least, to believe so. And so the fact that you're saying it's undeniable and we can deny it makes me think this being doesn't exist.
Okay, well, I'll offer you
And he doesn't know what's in our minds, so he can't back up his claim.
That's the contradictory language that I was pointing out, because he realized after he said that it was that we were denying it, he realized that I had pointed out earlier that a revelation would be undeniable. You could only suppress it or reject it in your unrighteousness, like Baked is currently doing with our worldview, right? And the other thing that he said that was really discouraging there was that never mind, I'm sorry. I'll let Amy take back over. I don't want to take 10 minutes.
Yeah, he claims we all know, but he can't prove that we know because he admits he doesn't have access to the contents of our minds.
I was going to say,
you could apply the same logic and then we would have absurdity, because we could know nothing, right? Because you don't have access to anything other than your own consciousness. So it's really a dumb argument to just rely on that. I was giving a general explanation for how there could be revelation, and yet some of you were saying, now some of you could be actively, honestly seeking God, and I think if you pray and if you keep an open heart and an open mind, you will find him, right? God wants to be your friend, right?
You know,
so that's our position.
I think if I'm going to be seeking a deity, I think if I'm going to be seeking, If I was to be seeking deity, I'd be seeking a goddess, not a god. Just want to put that out there.
And
All
again,
right.
if it was the Bible God, I would be wanting to seek them out, but it would be to get justice. I'd want to
Okay.
bring this God either to some sort of death penalty or some sort of life imprisonment to where this God
Amy,
did not hurt anyone else.
Amy, I want to get back to something you said earlier, right?
Hmm.
You said that we couldn't demonstrate that God exists, right? Do you think
Yes.
God, by definition, do you think God is contingent on anything else, or do you think he grounds all being and everything is contingent on God?
No, by definition, I think they are a contingent being. I think if we did not exist and our books would not exist, I think this God would not exist. I think you have to almost define them existence for them to be real.
Okay, so you're saying that God is contingent on something else creating God. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that when theists say that God is a creator, when they say he's all powerful, all perfect, all these other omnis, they're making this up. They have no reason for this. The only revelation they've ever had is in their
You-
own mind.
No, no, no. They're not making it up. These are derivative of God's nature. What I'm asking you
Pure
is,
nature,
when you
sure.
define in our worldview, right?
Mm.
God is the ultimate being that is uncaused and that which lacks any contingency because he grounds everything else. There's the creator creation distinction, right? So everything that is not God, right, is separated from God. God grounds everything that's not him, right?
In your
So
worldview,
there's
sure.
two right in our worldview, right? In actually philosophy itself, right?
Well, sure.
So
Well,
this
I
is
mean, we created
this is
God, so
okay.
technically the
That's
creator
that's your
creation separation
that's
would
your
be
worldview. Sure, sure, sure.
yes.
So
But
Amy made a good point earlier. You
in
kind of bypassed, but
I'll get
if
back to you,
if
Taco. Taco,
the
I'll get back to you.
delusion
I want to get
was
back.
just delusion and not actually your worldview being correct, then your claim that your worldview or appealing to your worldview would not have been a appropriate response to the
We agreed,
delusion question, right? And so
Taco,
you're
Taco, we
still
agreed
stuck in
at
a
the beginning.
conundrum being unable to distinguish
No, I said
reality from your imagination.
no, I said that it's self-authenticating, right? And self-revealing.
I mean, that for
So that's
Windows.
number one.
Right, but
Number
that can just be
two,
delusion, right? Because
number
everybody knows no
no,
gods exist. The self-evident truth of
no.
our shared
Okay, so then
naturalistic,
everything is a delusion. Is
atheistic
that what your argument
reality has been
is? Is that
revealed to all of sound mind through both
okay?
natural and
Is that
special
what your
revelation
argument
in an
is?
undeniable
Is
way.
your
And you're
argument
currently rejecting that in your
okay?
unrighteousness. And
Is
I'm
your
pointing
argument
that
that
out to
everything
you because it's
is
very unrighteous, sir.
okay? All right, great. You've said this multiple times. I've answered it. Now I'd like to go back to Amy's argument. So Amy, God lacks contingency, right?
Yeah.
So whether he exists or he doesn't exist is not going to be based on some contingent factor, right? It's not going to be because something
Under your
caused,
worldview, sure.
It'll be
right?
based
Or
on whether he consists of energy or not, right? Does he
in the
consist of
consensus,
energy?
in the consensus of philosophy, we could look it up in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy if you want, okay? There's some fringe views about it, but the consensus is that is the general accepted definition, right?
Does it consist of
So,
energy?
okay, can I respond to Amy Taco without the interruptions? Because I get distracted
If
easily,
you're
and I
talking about
apologize.
existence, that would mean consisting of
Okay,
energy, right?
I'd
So does
like
it
to
consist of
respond.
energy?
I'd like to respond without the
Okay.
interruption and getting dogpiled, right? So, Amy, if God existed, it wouldn't be for some contingent thing that brought him into being, right? Likewise, if he didn't exist, it wouldn't be for some contingent factor, right? He lacks contingency. So it
Under
wouldn't be
under
because,
your worldview, sure.
okay, and again, under the way it's commonly understood in philosophy, right? In Western philosophy, at
Well,
least.
that's not true. Not all philosophers are theists.
I I'm talking about the way even atheist philosophers adopt these definitions,
Yeah, the
right?
omni god, I call that the modern theism or the
Okay.
neo-theism, the
Let's just
omni
move
type
past
of creator
let's
being.
just move past this initial little like rope bump that we're in,
Okay.
okay? I want to get to the heart of the argument. So premise one is God is either going to be logically necessary or it's going to be impossible for a being like God to exist, right?
Sure, I
Because
reject premise one.
you reject that? Okay.
Yes,
Well, he lacks contingency, so that's out of the equation. So the only thing that's
reject
left
that too.
is
Okay.
logical necessity, or it's going to be impossible for God to exist. Premise 2 is it's not impossible. There's no contradiction. There's no incoherency. The conclusion, therefore, is God exists. There's no other possibility.
I mean, the contradiction would be
This
just
is
our
the
creation. You can't create ourselves. Like, we can't be created
No,
by the thing we made.
you're just well, all you're doing is quarreling with the definition of what God is, right? You're taking this
Well, I'm
fringe view.
open-minded.
Yeah, you're taking this fringe view that's not accepted even by the leading atheist philosophers, right?
You ever
Now,
heard of Odin or Thor?
yeah, those were um finite beings. They
Yeah, they had a
weren't,
word for them back then.
yeah, and they
And
were
now.
there's exactly, and they were not what we define God to be now. This is why I'm talking about thousands of years of philosophy, right?
This is why
So
I
we
call it
have,
the neo-theism, the new
Yeah,
theism.
if you actually read the Old Testament, God walks around, Abraham washes his feet. The
Alright.
ancient Hebrews had no concept of this magical omni being that that has all these properties that were sculpted slowly over
yeah,
millennia.
but they use transcendental arguments because they realized that there were natures of
So
reality.
let's follow your argument to its logical conclusion. So you're saying that God exists. So that means it consists of energy, right?
No, there's the essence of God. It doesn't. It's not
So
energy. Like,
existing would mean that it consists of energy.
no.
And God does not exist, which is a contradiction in your argument. So that would be impossible that
There
it
are the
exists.
energies. There are the energies, which are the movements of God, and there is the essence of God. Okay, that's all that is.
In this
Energy.
incoherent
Talking about
language, your God either consists of energy and exists, or doesn't consist of energy because it doesn't exist.
no energy. If you're using undefined terms, okay.
No, I'm
Energy.
not. You're using
And
incoherent
essence
language,
is
and I'm
isn't
responding
undefined.
with
I'm
actual
gonna.
terms that
I'm
are
gonna let.
used
I'm not gonna be
in
greedy. I would like
all
to.
sorts of fields.
Can I invite somebody else up on the stage?
No, we don't do
No.
that. That never works out very well.
You're going to say your God consists of
Yeah,
energy and it exists, or you're going to say your God doesn't consist of energy and it
I'm
doesn't
gonna drop
exist,
off.
or you're going to
I'm
drop
gonna
off the
drop off.
stage. All right, bye.
I don't want to take up the whole show. You guys.
How dishonest.
Mercy.
So just